I stepped inside the Great Pyramid, and what I found wasn't just ancient, it was something we were never meant to see. For centuries, I've looked at the Great Pyramid and felt the same awe travelers must have felt long ago. Standing at its base, dwarfed by millions of limestone blocks, I couldn't help but wonder where the entrance really was. For the longest time, no one could find it. The original doorway wasn't just hidden, it was erased from view. Built into the north face, it was sealed so seamlessly with casing stones that it completely vanished. It wasn't even discovered until the 9th century, and that was by pure accident. Even today, that real entrance is still blocked. If you visit the pyramid, the opening you see is just a rough tunnel, not the true original. The actual doorway sits above it, narrow, angular, and strangely secretive, as if the builders never wanted anyone to uncover it. And the engineering is what blows me away. The entrance was sealed so perfectly that it was airtight, camouflaged by polished white Tura limestone. Most of that stone has long eroded or been stripped away, but the mystery of that hidden doorway still lingers. Some researchers think that this entrance might have once connected to a much more complex passage system that we still don't know about. What fascinates me is that just above it, scientists recently used muon scanning, kind of like an X-ray that reads density, and discovered a corridor no one had ever seen before. It's about 30 feet long, sealed at both ends, and its purpose is still a mystery. Was it a trap, a hidden chamber, or just some kind of structural trick? Right now, all we've got is the scan. No one's actually been inside. Not yet. For me, the fact that this entrance stayed invisible for thousands of years really strengthens the idea that the pyramid wasn't designed to be easily explored. Maybe it was never meant to be entered at all. Some even argue it wasn't built as a tomb, but as something far more intricate, almost like a coded message carved into stone, waiting to be solved. It feels like walking into a puzzle room. All the clues are there, but the final answer is still sealed behind those massive blocks. Once I step past the narrow ascending corridor, the space suddenly opens up and I find myself inside one of the most mind-bending places I've ever seen in the Great Pyramid, the Grand Gallery. It towers nearly 30 feet high, with angled, polished walls that look far too precise to be thousands of years old. Standing there, it feels almost unsettling. Too perfect, too advanced, too deliberate. The craftsmanship is so exact that even some engineers today argue it couldn't have been built without tools we supposedly didn't possess at the time. But here's the strange part, no one actually knows why this sloping hall was built. Sure, it leads to the king's chamber, but why design such an enormous and intricate passage just to serve as a hallway? It's not decorated. There are no carvings, no treasures. And yet, when I stand there, the walls seem to buzz with a kind of energy, like they're hiding something in plain sight. Some researchers think the Grand Gallery once held a mechanism, maybe pulleys, a counterweight system, or even a resonance chamber meant to harness sound. Others dismiss it as merely structural, but walking through it myself, that explanation feels hollow. It doesn't seem like a support feature. It feels engineered, built with intent, like part of a massive machine carved into the heart of the pyramid. And here's the kicker. The gallery is so steep and narrow that early explorers had to crawl up with torches clamped in their teeth. They reported finding nothing, and yet, in a way, everything. Because the real mystery isn't what's inside, it's what was meant to be. When I finally reach the end of the Grand Gallery, I step into the king's chamber, and this is where the pyramid completely flips expectations. Forget treasure, forget a mummy. The room is empty. The only object inside is a massive granite box, far too big to have ever been moved through the corridors, which means it was built into place during construction. And yet, it's hollow. It always has been. The chamber itself is made entirely of red granite, hauled from a quarry more than 500 miles away. Not sandstone. Not limestone. Granite, a material so dense, so strong, and so conductive that it almost feels deliberate. Why go to such incredible lengths for a room with nothing inside? That's where things get even stranger. People who've stepped inside report bizarre effects, echoes that linger, sudden dizziness, even electronic devices glitching out. Musicians say certain notes resonate unnaturally, as if the room itself was tuned like an instrument. There's no sign it was ever sealed with a door, no carvings, no inscriptions, no sarcophagus. Just this raw, overwhelming sense that something once happened here, or maybe still does. And then there's the granite box. No decorations, no names, no carvings. Just flawless, mirror-smooth surfaces with angles too precise to have been hand-chiseled 4 millennia ago. Theories abound. Some say it's a resonance chamber. Others think it was for energy storage, purification, or rituals we can't even imagine. But the truth? The most important chamber of the Great Pyramid isn't an answer at all. It's a riddle. Silent, perfect, waiting. Inside the walls of both the King's and Queen's chambers, I came across something that honestly blew my mind. Tiny shafts, so narrow a person couldn't possibly crawl through them. For years, people assumed they were just air vents. But here's the catch, they don't go anywhere useful. Some don't even open into the chambers themselves. Then someone measured their angles and suddenly, the whole story shifted. The shafts from the King's chamber line up almost perfectly with Orion's belt and Sirius stars that were sacred to the ancient Egyptians. That's when the theories took off. Were these star paths for the pharaoh's spirit? Or were they something even more technical, maybe channels for sound, light, or energy itself? In 1993, a small robot with a camera was sent into one of these shafts. What it discovered was shocking: a tiny polished stone door with copper handles. A door hidden inside a passage no bigger than a shoebox. Years later, another robot drilled through and found another door waiting behind it. What's behind that second door? Nobody knows. The shaft bends just enough to make exploration nearly impossible without causing damage. Some believe it could hide a secret chamber. Others think it was built never to be opened. But here's the thing, these narrow shafts, no wider than my fist, are real. The scans are real. The doors are real. And the mystery they hide? Still completely unsolved. Deep inside the Great Pyramid, I stepped into a chamber that's still one of the biggest puzzles in archaeology, the so-called Queen's Chamber. But here's the weird part, no queen was ever buried there. No mummy, no treasure, nothing but an empty room with sloped walls, mysterious shafts, and an eerie sense of unfinished purpose. Unlike the King's Chamber, this one is built from softer limestone and lacks that imposing grandeur. And yet many believe it holds some of the pyramid's most important secrets. The two shafts inside, once dismissed as air vents, turned out to be sealed until robots crawled inside and found those strange little doors buried deep in the stone. These shafts don't lead outside at all, they burrow straight into the heart of the pyramid. But where do they end? No one knows. What makes it even stranger is the placement of the chamber itself. It sits off-center, unbalanced, almost like it doesn't belong. Some argue it was part of an early blueprint that got abandoned. Others think it was meant to confuse intruders. But there's a bolder theory that this room wasn't designed for burial at all. Recent scans have picked up voids above and around the chamber, suggesting there could be sealed rooms still waiting behind those walls. Maybe a hidden vault. Maybe even a lost archive of stone texts. The truth? Nobody can say for sure. All I know is this: the Queen's Chamber shouldn't exist the way it does. And the more we study it, the more it feels like the builders left us a riddle carved in stone. One that's been waiting thousands of years to be solved. For more than 4,000 years, people walked through the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid, staring up at its towering walls, never realizing something enormous was right above them. Then, in 2017, scientists used advanced particle scanning, and what they found was jaw-dropping: a hidden void the size of a passenger jet, directly above the gallery. No tunnels lead to it. No one has ever set foot inside. And even today, its purpose remains a complete mystery. This isn't just some crack in the stone. The void stretches over 100 feet long and nearly 30 feet high. And in one of the most studied monuments on the planet, no one knew it was there until muon tomography, a method that reads cosmic rays filtering through stone, finally revealed it. The discovery set off a storm of theories. Some experts rushed to call it a new chamber, while others cautioned against jumping to conclusions. But here's the thing, the placement is too perfect to ignore. Its shape mirrors the Grand Gallery almost exactly, like a hidden twin running above it. Was it part of the construction system? Or is it hiding something the builders never wanted disturbed? Since there's no known entrance, the only way to find out would be to drill through blocks of history, and so far, Egyptian authorities have been very reluctant to take that risk. So for now, the void stays locked in silence, a massive, deliberate-looking hollow suspended in stone. It's big enough to change everything we thought we knew about the pyramid, and yet it may remain untouched for centuries to come. Inside the King's Chamber, I found myself staring at the only object in the entire room, a massive stone box, shaped like a coffin, carved out of a single block of granite. No markings, no lid, no decoration at all. People call it the sarcophagus, but it's one of the strangest relics in the whole pyramid. It's far too large to fit through the narrow passages, which means it was placed there before the chamber was sealed during construction. And that leaves one huge question: why is it completely empty? Some believe it was looted long ago, but the evidence doesn't fit. There are no scratches, no broken lid pieces, no residue inside, nothing to suggest it ever held a body or treasure. Instead, the sides are carved with almost impossible precision, polished so smoothly it feels out of place for the tools we're told existed over 4,000 years ago. And then there's the sound. When you strike the box, it resonates with a deep hum, almost like a tuning fork. Musicians and engineers who've studied it suggest it might have been used for rituals involving sound, vibration, or even frequencies we don't fully understand. If that's true, it wasn't a coffin at all. It was some kind of device built into the heart of the pyramid. The legends only add to the mystery. Early explorers wrote about feeling strange sensations when they touched it, with some even getting dizzy or lightheaded just by standing near it for too long. Was it science? Was it superstition? Nobody can say for sure. But one thing feels certain to me: that box wasn't left there by chance. And whatever its real purpose was, it's still keeping the secret, right in plain sight. Not every part of the Great Pyramid feels grand or awe-inspiring. Some places feel heavy, almost oppressive. Deep in the lower levels, I crawled into a steep, narrow corridor where the ceiling dropped so low I had to crouch just to move forward. This is the bent passage, one of the least visited, yet most unsettling paths in the entire pyramid. The deeper I went, the more the walls seemed to close in. The air grew thick, the heat rose fast, and I could see why so many explorers reported dizziness or even panic inside here. The corridor angles sharply down before suddenly flattening out, as if it couldn't make up its mind. That strange bend is what gives it both its name and its mystery, and no one really knows why it was built this way. Some archaeologists say it was part of an earlier plan that was abandoned mid-construction. Others think it could have been a trap, meant to confuse or exhaust intruders. There's even a theory that it symbolized a descent into the underworld, less of a physical passage, more of a spiritual journey carved into stone. Following the passage takes you down toward the subterranean chamber, the lowest room in the pyramid, carved straight into the bedrock. To reach it, you have to crawl in silence, with nothing but the sound of your own breath and the grinding of stone under your feet. It's not a path of comfort. It's a path that challenges you, daring you to see how far you're willing to go. The moment I step inside the Great Pyramid, the silence feels almost crushing. But here's the strange part: it isn't always silent. Over the years, people, myself included, have reported odd sounds, low humming, distant echoes, even whispers with no clear source. These aren't the usual noises of shifting stone or tourists shuffling by. It's as if the walls themselves are speaking. When engineers tested the chambers, they found that certain frequencies echo in bizarre ways, especially inside the king's chamber. One tone in particular, around 110 Hz, bounces endlessly off the granite walls, creating a deep resonance. You don't just hear, you feel it. Standing there, it's like the room itself is vibrating with life. But not every story can be explained by science. Workers and visitors have claimed to hear voices in the dark, feel sudden cold spots, or sense unseen eyes watching them. Maybe it's the heat, the tight passages, or oxygen running thin. Or maybe it's something else entirely. Even electromagnetic sensors have picked up strange fluctuations in parts of the pyramid. Nothing harmful, just unexplainable, like interference without a source. And while no one can call it proof of the paranormal, the sheer number of consistent reports makes you think twice. One thing I know for sure: the pyramid never feels empty. It feels alive, like it carries memories in its stone. The sound, the pressure, the vibrations, they linger. And long after I step back into the sunlight, that feeling refuses to let go. Back in 1993, something happened inside the Great Pyramid that honestly completely rewrote what I thought I knew about its design. A German engineer named Rudolf Gantenbrink sent this custom-built robot into one of the Queen's chamber shafts, and get this, it was a tiny passageway, only about 8 inches wide. No human had ever seen inside. No one even knew where that shaft actually went. The robot crawled upward for more than 200 feet, inch by inch, until it just stopped. Not because the shaft ended, but because it hit something totally unexpected. There was this smooth stone slab, polished and clearly deliberate, sealing the way forward. And right there, embedded in it, were two tiny copper pins. This wasn't just a pile of rubble, it wasn't some accident. It was a door. A sealed one, hidden inside the pyramid for thousands of years. That single discovery honestly shook the archaeological world. Why would there be a door inside a tunnel too narrow for people? And maybe more importantly, what was on the other side? Almost 10 years later, in 2002, a new robot was sent in. This time, it drilled a small hole through the slab and slipped in a fiber optic camera. What it revealed was even stranger, another stone barrier sitting just inches beyond the first. Two doors, back to back. No chamber, no treasure. Just another silent wall of stone. And here's the kicker. Even today, nobody knows what lies beyond that second door. Authorities haven't allowed any more drilling, and the shaft's curve makes it impossible to see deeper. So what we're left with is a dark, narrow passage, a sealed gateway, and a mystery locked in stone, a door that just refuses to give up its secret. You'd think the most famous tomb in history would at least hold a body, right? But here's the shocker, the Great Pyramid didn't. When modern explorers finally got inside, they didn't find a pharaoh's remains. No mummy, no bones, not even fragments of a sarcophagus lid. The place was just empty. And that really doesn't add up. This was a project that took around 20 years and more than 2 million blocks of stone to complete. Why put so much time and effort into building something so colossal only to leave it vacant? The usual explanation is looting, that grave robbers slipped in, took the body and treasures, and erased every trace. But here's the problem with that, there were no signs of a break-in where you'd expect them. No shattered doors, no forced tunnels. And unlike other Egyptian tombs, this pyramid had no inscriptions, no burial texts, no painted walls to guide a pharaoh's spirit into the afterlife. It's almost like the pyramid was never completed. Or maybe it was never meant to be a tomb at all. Some scholars are even starting to argue that the Great Pyramid was never a tomb at all. When you look inside, it just doesn't fit the pattern of other royal burials. There are no offerings, no jars, no funeral goods, basically nothing you'd expect to see. Instead, it feels more like a giant, cold machine, silent, precise, and completely out of place. Others point to its strange alignments with the stars, its unusual acoustics, and even its geometry as signs that it had a different purpose entirely. Was it built as a monument to the heavens? A ritual device? Or maybe even something more advanced than we're willing to admit? Whatever the builders had in mind, one thing's for sure, this 450-foot giant doesn't sit neatly under the label of tomb. If it was, it's the only one of its kind. And if it wasn't, well, we still don't really know what it was meant to be. When most people look at the Great Pyramid, their eyes go straight up. But for me, the real secrets might actually be hiding below it. In the last few years, ground-penetrating radar and seismic scans have revealed something incredible. There are cavities under the base, hidden chambers, narrow tunnels. Some appear natural, but others look way too precise to be anything but man-made. One of the most mysterious spots is right beneath the so-called subterranean chamber. A rough, unfinished room cut deep into the bedrock. I've seen pictures of it, and honestly, it's eerie. No carvings, no decorations, just raw stone, a pit, and a narrow tunnel vanishing into blackness. It doesn't feel like an accident. It feels intentional, like someone left a scar in the rock on purpose. Even more mind-blowing, scans suggest there might be something below that chamber. A hidden void? Maybe even a sealed room that hasn't been touched in thousands of years. But here's the catch, digging is off limits. Egyptian authorities are extremely protective of the site, and it makes sense. Nobody truly knows how the pyramid's foundation handles its massive weight. One wrong move, and you could destabilize one of the greatest wonders on Earth. And still, the stories keep coming. I've read theories that the pyramid wasn't built on empty ground at all, but right on top of something older. Maybe an earlier structure, maybe a natural cave system that the builders reshaped for their own use. Some even suggest that water channels or underground power systems once flowed through these tunnels, tying directly into the pyramid's mysterious energy-related properties people always talk about. What fascinates me even more are the whispers from ancient texts. Some hint at hidden vaults beneath Giza, said to contain records or relics from a forgotten age. Now, we don't have proof of that. No one's uncovered scrolls or artifacts down there. But here's what we do know. The scans don't lie. Hollow spaces really are there under the pyramid. We just have no clue what's waiting inside them. For now, the ground beneath Giza is just as silent and just as stubborn as the stone that towers above it. Just a few miles north of the Giza Plateau out in the desert at Abu Rawash, I found the scattered remains of a pyramid. Hardly anyone talks about the pyramid of Pharaoh Djedefre. Now, unlike the giants at Giza, this one barely sticks out of the sand today. But here's the kicker: some experts think Djedefre's pyramid might have once been the tallest of them, all maybe even higher than the Great Pyramid itself. So what happened to it? Djedefre was Khufu's son, the same Khufu who built the Great Pyramid, and he took the throne right after his father died. But instead of sticking with tradition and building at Giza, Djedefre picked a lonely, rocky spot far to the north. Why? That's still up for debate. Some believe he wanted to escape the politics at court. Others think he was making a bold statement, carving out his own legacy, separate from Khufu's shadow. When archaeologists first started digging at Abu Rawash, they didn't just find rubble, they uncovered massive granite blocks, fragments of smooth casing stones, and hints of an architecture far more advanced than people expected. The foundation sits on high ground, which means that if the pyramid had been completed, it would have towered even higher than Khufu's Great Pyramid, simply because of its elevation. But here's the twist: Djedefre's pyramid didn't fall apart on its own. It was destroyed, stone, by human hands. Historians say it was systematically dismantled in later times, its blocks hauled away to build other projects. Was it an act of revenge, an attempt to erase his name from history? Or was it just practicality, the easiest quarry in the desert? And then come the real mysteries. Djedefre's pyramid wasn't a simple copy of Khufu's. It had unusual features tied to sun worship, along with design elements that suggest he was breaking tradition, maybe even reinventing what a pyramid was supposed to be. Was this monument meant for a new kind of spiritual purpose? Was Djedefre trying to change Egypt's entire pyramid legacy? Today, all that remains are ruins and unanswered questions. But for those who dig deeper, Djedefre's missing pyramid feels like more than a forgotten ruin. It might just be the missing link in Egypt's greatest dynasty, the ghost of what could have been the most impressive pyramid ever built. No mystery this massive could escape the pull of the strange, and the Great Pyramid is no exception. Over the years, I've seen how it's become a lightning rod for some of the wildest, yet surprisingly persistent theories out there. From secret technology to whispers of visitors from the stars, this monument attracts speculation that goes way beyond archaeology. One of the most popular ideas claims the pyramid wasn't built by humans alone. People point to the flawless precision of the stonework, the sheer weight of the blocks, and the lack of clear evidence of tools that could have done the job. The theory goes that the ancient Egyptians had help from advanced beings with knowledge far beyond their time. There's no proof, of course, but the idea refuses to fade away. Then there are the energy theories, which I find even more fascinating. Some argue the pyramid once functioned as a colossal power source. They highlight strange details: granite that conducts energy, a layout that mirrors planetary geometry, and shafts that seem designed to channel forces we don't fully understand. One viral claim even suggests the pyramid beamed energy skyward not as legend, but as long-lost technology. And let's not forget the reports of electromagnetic oddities. Visitors and researchers have talked about compass needles spinning, cameras glitching, even a kind of electric pressure in the air. Science has only confirmed minor fluctuations, but the rumors keep spreading, fueling the fire. Whether or not these theories stand up to strict science, they add to the pyramid's mystique. Even today, with satellite scans and advanced tech, something about this ancient giant still refuses to make sense. Maybe that's the real magic, not in what we've solved, but in what still escapes explanation. That's about it. Which Egypt mystery scared you the most? Write in the comments. For more useful information, watch other videos.